amazed at just how breezily Democrats are out there publicly discussing subverting the will of the people of Maine. Graham Plattner overwhelmingly won a primary. 98% of what we know about Graham Plattner, we already knew. The voters knew, the Democrats knew, the activists knew, the donors knew, everybody knew.
The media knew. Don't let these people on that panel go off scot-free. They all knew what was going on. They all knew this guy was a scumbag. They all knew this was completely bad news. Everybody looked the other way. They compromised themselves. They did whatever they could do to get this guy in a position to beat Susan Collins.
And there's a reason why
they voted for him.
Summer of 24 right now.
They voted for him anyway. Graham Plattner hasn't dropped out of this race
yet. But if
yet.
Graham Plattner does drop out,
you have all these Democrats and even some of the, well, I guess we'll have to get somebody else. You had a vote. This is a democracy. The Democrats voted. And now the party of democracy is apparently going to subvert the will of the people.
What you're hearing from Scott, though, what you're hearing from Scott, though, is that obviously the Republicans at this point would love to run against Graham Plattner. I mean, this would be a gift. I mean,
it's not a matter of the Republicans wanting to run against Graham Plattner. That's not the point. You can try and deflect all you want, but that's not the point. What we're seeing going on with the Democrat Party right now, we've seen this movie. This should make every single American, Republican and Democrat, who believe in this country, sit up and take notice. I don't live in Maine. Full disclosure, I don't live in Maine. I don't care about Graham Plattner. I don't really care about Susan Collins. What I care about is what this Democrat Party is turning into. I believe fully that what you're seeing is the execution of a sinister strategy that the Democrats seem completely cozy with executing. You see, go back to, maybe 2016, and Bernie Sanders was kicking Hillary Clinton's butt. And the Democrats got rid of Bernie. We don't know how. It never made it to the media. People didn't dig in. But all of a sudden, Bernie's just going to acquiesce and let Hillary Clinton run. Then, a couple years ago, Joe Biden's sharp as a tack. He's fine. He's the best version of Joe Biden we've ever seen. He's fine. Then he does the debate and vomits all over himself. And immediately after he vomited all over himself, they're like, we got to do something. And just like with Graham Plattner, they knew that this guy was demented. They knew that his elevator didn't go to the top floor. This is nothing new, what you're seeing with Graham Plattner. This is the new Democrat strategy. Now they're perfecting it, which is what should really concern you. Once again, they're showing us exactly who they are. Rules, they don't need rules. They don't need your votes. They don't care. And so she tries to turn it on Scott and say, of course the Republicans would want to run against Graham Plattner. The Republicans were licking their chops months ago. This isn't new. But now what we're seeing is what they're doing.
Would be a gift for them.
And to Dave's point, every hour that goes by,
Look, Lulu, it's not a gift that someone like this was allowed to make it this far in this process. But he did make it this far, and I think the Democrats, sometimes, what's the old saying? You made your bed, now you got to lie in it.
Well, at least
the
Democrats
process here would dictate that Democrats ought to have to lie in this.
Allow. Did you notice the word Scott used? The Democrats allow. That says a lot. See, now they're screaming from the rooftops, oh, he's a horrible man. Everybody is saying he has to get out, except for him. Graham Plattner came out and said, and his team have said, we're not going anywhere. We're not leaving this race unless we get to pick who the next person is. Think about that. You have a Democrat candidate who has seen this movie before. And so now he's jumping in and saying, I get to pick the next person. And the Democrat Party is like, we get to pick the next person. And the voters in Maine now just have to watch the movie. They've been completely usurped. Focus on what's going on, not who the players are. I don't give a crap about Graham Platter. You probably don't. You thought he was a scumbag months ago. That's not it. What it is what they are doing yet once again. We'll choose. No, I want to choose. That's not how it's supposed to work. Actually, it already worked. You don't get a mulligan. You don't get a do-over. Just because all of a sudden now he's getting his butt beat and you got women coming out the woodwork saying different things. Now, okay, that's one too many. No, we understood he did some weenie picks. We knew this. You knew everything. The numbers say he can't win, and so he's got to go. How do we make him go away? Just like with Joe Biden. We'll just say, Joe's going to drop out and let Kamala come in. Pop quiz. How many votes did Kamala Harris win or get from people who wanted her to run for president? Zippo. You see, the people no longer count to the Democrats. Power does, but the people don't count. I want to show you this article, and I just found it kind of surprising. This article here, it says, Graham Plattner is now holding the Democrat Party hostage, refusing to drop out unless he gets to name the successor. I'm sorry, I didn't know it worked like that. I didn't know that one man or some other people can go, okay, let's sit down, let's work this out, who's going to be our nominee. Now it's becoming too comfortable. When you can say this out loud, when you can actually just tell the people of Maine, oh, we're going to decide who's going to actually run against Susan Collins. After you went through an entire primary season, after you spent 30, 40, 50 million dollars, after you had all these rallies and having people hold up signs, Graham's the man, and all this stuff, now all of a sudden, sorry, we changed our mind. You see, don't get caught up in the story about what he's done and who he's done the thing to. Let the law take care of that. What you need to start focusing on is the evil that these people are executing. When you can write a story like this, when somebody can come out and say that in public, I'm not dropping out because of all the stuff that I did unless I get to pick who's my successor is. I want you to think about that long and hard. These people in Maine were bamboozled, hoodwinked, gaslit. Oh, he's the man. And they went to the polls and they said, okay, we think Graham Plattner is the guy we want to represent us. You know, that's the whole idea for voting, is having representation. So they went and they voted for this guy. And he won the nomination. He won the nomination. The voters confirm this is the person we want. But now, today, that's not important anymore. What's important is who gets to determine who's going to be the actual nominee. I want to be that person, says Graham Plattner. And the other people in the party are like, we want to be that person or people. And yet the poor people of Maine right now are looking around at each other in barbershops and coffee shops and going, what about us? What do we do? This is where you're going with the Democrat Party. It's already worked for them. And now they're doing it again. They're saying, hey, nobody could really stop us before. We got the brain dead guy out. We somehow got people to vote for him, and then we pulled the plug on him, and we get to say who runs. Every single day, these people complain about democracy. But look what they're doing right now in the state of Maine. Step back from the crap that they're saying and realize what's really happening is a subversion of democracy. It is communism in essence. They have just told the people of Maine, sorry, you don't count. They're trying to erase the results of a valid primary. They're trying to get rid of this guy who actually won the primary. He got the votes. Don't know how, don't know why, but those are the people, they voted for him. And now, all of a sudden, because there's more accusations, which we all knew this guy was scumbag emeritus, now all of a sudden, we're going to have to change him out. Oh, we get to vote again? Not so fast, my friends. No. You voted for that guy who's no longer going to be our person, and now he's gone, and so now we're going to pick somebody else. You mean someone who never ran in the primaries? Somebody who never got one single vote? I don't know what you call that, but I'm pretty sure you don't call that democracy. I think we can label that the Democrat machine, the commie-crat machine. They're doing what they do best, which is bamboozle people. And then you have to realize how many of those votes were real that he got and how many of those votes were fake. How did they get those people to stand up behind him and hold signs? You got people on television going, I would hold my nose and vote for him instead of Susan Collins. Was that their pitch? But let's say that was the pitch. Let's say the pitch was, he's a scumbag, but he's our Nazi. And it's still better than having, somebody in there who might vote for Donald Trump. So in essence, these women don't really matter. We just need to beat Trump. And the voters, yeah, you're right. Let's go with that. Now it's like, we don't think he can actually win, so we need to pick somebody else. We need to override you stupid people here in Maine. Because right now, if you're in Maine, that's what they're saying. They're saying, you're too stupid to see what we just did to you. So we did that nationally to Democrats a couple of years ago. They were too stupid to see it coming. They really believed us when we said Joe Biden was the best version of himself ever, and he's as sharp as a tack. You really believe the media. Oh, don't worry about the Nazi tattoo and all the, weenie pics and everything else and the other women. No, he's the best version of himself. Until we decide he no longer is. That's the story. And people aren't talking about it. And it has to be snipped in the bud, because if they did it in a presidential election and now they're doing it once again in a senatorial election, what stops them from rolling this out nationwide and go, put anybody in there? I don't care. Put the garbage man in there. Put $40 million, let him get the votes in the primary, and then we'll yank him for who we really want. Over and over and over. By the way, you didn't think the powers that be were really going to let these socialist commies win things, did you? They saw what happened in New York when they left it up to people, and they're like, that ain't gonna work. Nope, he can stay in New York because, as you know, New York's not the center of the world. That's just New York. So let's lay this out plain and simple. On June 9th of this year, Graham Plattner won the Democrat primary for the United States Senate in Maine. He won. He beat all of the other candidates supposedly fair and square. The voters in that primary chose him. Warts, bumps, boils, and all. They chose him. Now, here we are, just over a month later, and now more stuff keeps coming out, it's not new. Jake Tapper didn't just all of a sudden find this woman. They knew. They all knew. But here we are in July, and the entire Democrat establishment is in full panic mode, it seems. Oh, he's got to go. Bernie Sanders, he's got to go. We can't have this. They all want him gone. They want him to drop out now. Why? Because of these serious allegations that have surfaced? Hell no. They want him to drop out because they get to call the shots. They get to decide who is going to be the candidate, and they're giving the double-barreled middle finger to the people of Maine, and they're almost daring them to do something about it. Because that's what's really happening. The people of Maine are sitting on their hands going, but I voted for this guy. And the Democrats in charge are like, we don't care. Tough turkey. What they're doing is completely destroying the electoral process in itself. They waited. They purposely waited until after the July 4th holiday. They waited until there was just about 1 week left before the so-called legal deadline. And now, with everything supposed to be confirmed by July 13th, oh, by the way, and you guys thought in Maine that you voted for him in the primary back in June. Silly rabbits. Now they've issued the code red. The major Democrats started pulling their endorsements. Chuck Schumer, Kristen Gillibrand, Ro Khanna, the Maine Democrat Party itself. Even today, Bernie Sanders, like, he gotta go, who had been one of his biggest backers, now says, get the hell out. Elizabeth Warren, he's a dead Tom Turkey. He's absolutely done. They all said they're not going to back him. The Democrat Party openly just said, we're not going to spend another dime on your race. It's nice for you to say after you spent 40 plus million of people's money. By the way, how many people could you have fed with 40 million backing Graham Plattner? By the way, how many people could have, maybe bought houses or had some affordable housing with the 40 million you spent on Graham Plattner? Those things never get asked by the Democrats. It's always those guys spending money. It's always them. Never look at what, Reid Hoffman or Neville Singham or some of these guys are spending, or the Soros family. Never, don't talk about that. This evil empire we're building here, we control it. Look at what's really going on. They are twisting every arm they can possibly find. And they're doing it with the clock ticking down to July 13th. And they're doing it in full view of the public. Both us and the people of Maine can see what they're doing. They don't care. Get out so we can replace him. And I think that's the biggest thing people need to really focus on is they are telling voters, go pound sand. We don't care that you voted for him. We will now decide who it will be. And here's where it really gets rich. Graham Plattner now is refusing to walk away. And so I want to show you more of this article with him saying, Graham Plattner holding Dem party hostage, refusing to drop out unless he gets to name successor. It says here, Maine Democrat candidate Graham Plattner appears to be holding the Democrat Party hostage, refusing to drop out after he was accused of what he did unless he gets to approve the successor. Does this sound familiar? Well, if it does, then you were paying attention back when Bernie and Hillary were going. If you weren't, you should have things, get some education here. Because this is exactly, Bernie's like, I'm not backing out. Funny, now Bernie has 3 houses. He's got a book deal where they're laundering money to buy his books and nobody's reading. And he's got a summer house and a camp. And wow, Bernie, you got 3 houses all of a sudden. You got book deals. You're making millions. And all you had to do was drop out. And all your dreams came true and all your socialist commie nightmares ended. And now you got the same thing happening here. I ain't going anywhere. A source familiar with the campaign discussions that Plattner, his campaign, and political strategist Morris Katz are deliberating about the Maine Democrat dropping out, but only if his replacement shares his left-wing values. Oh, so you only leave if another commie gets nominated. You know that ain't gonna happen. You're going to see Graham Plattner in a week or so come out and make a speech, and then he'll have a huge parachute. He'll end up having a windfall from this. You get a couple million. Go away. So right now you're having negotiations behind the scenes, and those negotiations behind the scenes are, what do I get? What do I get for me to leave? I already know I'm a dead man walking, but I know a lot. I know what you guys did here. And so as you hear this and as you read what he says, you have to realize at this point that this entire party is bullcrap. This entire party is built on an illusion of democracy. The entire party is being orchestrated and manipulated by a very select few that want to make it even more select. We'll never know who these people are behind the scenes. These people are the ones who just cut checks and decide who the kings they are going to make. And Graham Plattner is smart enough to realize, well, even if you get rid of me, I want another me. I want a mini me to show up. No, that ain't gonna happen. All right, well, then I'll just stay here. I'll stay. It says the clock is ticking, which he knows, for the 41-year-old oyster farmer, which he's not, to withdraw and be replaced on the ballot. It says the vibes to me like a play from a Bernie Sanders to slide in Troy Jackson, sources say. Yeah, they want to just put in their person. They want to put in the guy who most appeals to Bernie Sanders, but the elites in the party aren't going to let that happen. They already got rid of the governor. She was trying to run, and they cleared a path for the commie because they realized the commie could get all these votes and get people together. And when he won, now all of a sudden, all this stuff with different women come out the woodwork. Now they know, did you really do another one like that? Yeah. Did you get drunk and climb in another window? Yeah. And you know there's more. You know they're just lined up like they're waiting for a bus at this point. Guys that do that don't stop. But now you got Plattner saying, I'm not going anywhere until you let me decide who the replacement will be. He wants somebody who will share his exact view. Think about this for a second. He wants someone who shares his exact views. His left-wing, progressive views. He's basically telling the Democrat Party at this point, I'll step aside, but only if I get to pick the guy. How is that your view? You see, that sounds very communistic, doesn't it? I'm the one who's going to pick the person. That means you don't care about so-called democracy. You don't care about a republic. This is complete power negotiation. They are going to decide for the people in Maine who you get. And you'll accept it. You'll smile and you'll shut up. Do you see the hypocrisy here? Not a lot of people point it out because it's so disgusting and sinister and heinous. The Democrats spent years telling us that Donald Trump was the greatest threat to democracy in American history, and they have been doing it the entire time and telling people, don't look over here. They said Joe Biden was perfect. Yanked him, stuck in Kamala. She lost. That was their training ground. That was like my grandson here in the heat, getting a lather. Now we know how this works. Now we can do this all over the country. We can go ahead and run a race. And if we lose the race, actually, not if we don't lose the race, we'll win the race. We'll put anybody out there. If they can fog a mirror, we'll put them out there. The problem is that they started seeing the numbers, and when the numbers came out, let me show you the latest numbers on where they are. They're like, this isn't going to work anymore. Latest numbers, I don't know who this pollster is, so numbers may vary, but it says Susan Collins, 65, Graham Plattner, 34. He's getting absolutely crushed. So now we got to change up. But you shouldn't be able to. You should have to dance with the person who brought you there. You don't get to shrug and go, hey, relief pitcher, bring somebody else in out the bullpen. That's not how elections are supposed to work. That's not how democracy is supposed to work. They said that President Trump would install himself as a dictator when they realized, well, you should realize that no dictator ever installs himself. They do exactly what the Democrat Party is doing right now. A group of select people will decide who runs what. Not the Republicans who want to destroy our democracy. You're looking at it in Maine in full view. The Democrat Party is doing everything it can to get rid of the candidate who won the primary. And now because they don't like the result or because he's getting killed in the polls, they need to find a way to undo it. Like a mulligan, like I said, like it never happened. You've seen this movie before, but you may not have realized what you were looking at. And those of you who have been astute in politics and realized everything that went on with Bernie Sanders when he won all those primaries, and the superdelegates and the party bosses made sure Hillary Clinton got the nomination. Most of us didn't pay attention because we were Republicans. Like, I don't care. Bernie, Hillary, bring it on. Trump's going to beat whoever you bring out. But that's not the problem. The problem is now we're seeing them evolve. No criminal mastermind stops with one crime. Not when they realize they can make it good across different locations. What mattered to them was that the machine was honed. The engine was really greased. Now they know how to do it. And you saw it. And now they're coming back at it, and they're going to do it in little races as well. And don't think that Maine will be the last time. Now that they know, especially if they get away with it next week, now that they know, and you'll see it happen, watch the signals. You got a week to go. July 13th or 14th, everything finalizes. Watch how it works. Watch who picks. Who are going to be the people to determine who's going to run in Maine. You probably won't see them. They'll be shadowy figures somewhere. There will be no new primary. There will be no new votes from the people. Just the party elites deciding who the nominee should be. And then, dutifully, obligatorily, the media and the other Democrats will fall right back in place. This is the new person. They have been crowned. And let's go ahead and destroy as much as we can Susan Collins and just support this new commie or elitist and erase from your mind like in Men in Black. And they get a little brainy racy thing. And it'll just be back to one harmonious, crazy party. Like it never even happened. But you have to focus on it because now you know their intent, now you know their strategy, and now over the next 7 days, just watch this diabolical, arrogant strategy play out. And as you watch it, you will be stunned. You will not believe that it's actually working for them. The media, like I said, will fall right in place. The other Democrats will fall right in place. And it'll be, hey, we have a champion of the people here. But when the people in a primary actually voted and picked somebody, and the Washington insiders decide they don't like that person for whatever reason, suddenly the people don't matter anymore. And so it'll be back to gaslighting and MK Ultraing these people because they also will fall in line. They have no choice. This is who they are. This is how they've been bred, and it will continue to go this way until good people stop it. And that's why you should care. I don't expect you to care about a Democratic race in Maine. I want you to be astute enough to see what happens over the next week and see what they're now building. They are building a strategy where at any time, at any place, they can, without the will of the voters, change a candidate and put anybody they want in. Watch the rules and how they start writing them differently in your state. In fact, find out in your state what happens if they want to pull somebody out. Find out in your state if this happened, I don't know, in Kentucky. Something's going on there too. What happens if you have to yank somebody out? How do they do it in a primary? Edify yourself. Be careful. Understand. I'm not trying to be any hyperbolic, metaphoric thing here. They're doing it. You know, hyperbole is when you blow something out of proportion. But when we've seen it happen in the presidential election, and now we're seeing it happen once again, you have no way to look away from what these Democrats are capable of doing. After all, they tried to shoot President Trump. They tried to impeach him 3 or 4 times. They tried to indict him 25 different times in different states. They tried to steal his property. They tried to steal his businesses. Doing this to the people of Maine? That's no big deal. That's just, they do that in half a day probably. But you now have to slap yourself, wake up, and see what's going on. See, right now they like the sensationalist of it. Oh, he did this to a woman. But that's not the scandal. I don't care about Graham Plattner. I don't know him, don't want to know him. I care about our process, our electoral process, and understanding what's right and what's wrong. And they are taking everything away from people who are in the Democrat Party, who are voting for Democrats, and not realizing they're being used. There's a lot of things I don't like, and probably the top of that is being used.